Hey everybody, Mel here from Sewing with Mel. Today's lesson is going to be on how to use Design Center or IQ if you're using a Solaris, but I'm going to use Design Center on the Luminaire, and it's how to digitize an applique quilt block so that you can do it all in the hoop. Okay, so normally when you get a pattern, let's just say it was this. I whipped up this little kitty cat here with a boo on it. It's Halloween. It's kitty cat ghost. So you would get this. This is your layout. This shows where all of your fabric pieces get placed, and then you would manually stitch around them with your sewing machine. So when you get one of those patterns, you get pattern pieces that you just cut out. They're not, it doesn't put it anywhere. You know what I mean? You're just cutting it out just like that. You don't need this. And you don't need this. You don't need those pattern pieces. What you need is the layout. Okay, so this is what we're going to put on our scanning frame, and then we're going to scan it into the machine. And this is what we're going to digitize from. Let's go do it. Okay, I have my scanning frame in my machine, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my Design Center. And we're going to scan. And the first thing we're going to do is go right up here. There's 3 different ones. We're going to use line design. And just an FYI, the very first one, that's just going to take a picture. It doesn't copy anything. It doesn't do anything but put a picture up there that you could trace around. So we're not going to do that. We're going to do a line design. And let's go ahead and scan. Yes. And I'll go ahead and fast forward through this so you don't have to wait. All right, there's our scan. And if we hit OK, it'll show us the result. Here's the original. Here's the result. Let's look at the result. We don't care about this or this or this. But see these little broken areas right here? We don't want that in here. Okay, if you get those in here, you'll either have to fill them in, or you can go back and scan and try to get a better scan. But this looks really good. I don't see any problems here. So we're going to go set. All right. Get rid of the picture behind it. Okay, see, now it's gone. Now you can just see the rest of it. You just see what you scanned. You don't see the image behind it. So what we want to do is get rid of this and this and this. And sometimes, like right there, it's the edge of the paper. Okay, so let's get rid of those things first. And you can take your eraser. Yes, you can take your eraser. How big is it? Let's see. Pretty small. You can simply do that and erase, but sometimes you end up leaving little pieces, right? I'm going to do it right there to get rid of that. You can cut out big chunks all at one time. Okay, so down here you have select. I wish my pen worked all the time, but it doesn't. This lets you draw a box around something. This would be freeform. Let's freeform it. And you're going to draw around it like that. Cut. Gone. Let's do this one. There's a little piece of paper edge right there. Get rid of that. Oops. And cut. Okay. And this one. Cut. All right. Now we are left with the kitty and his face and boo. You want to make sure you don't have any little pieces of the rest of it, any little leftover pieces, the edge of the paper. You want to make sure all those are gone, okay? Because if they're not all gone, they're going to show up as a stitch in there and it'll kind of mess you up. So I'll look at this really close here and get my face right up into the camera, but you won't see it. And I'm going to check. Yep, right there. And am I still on select? I am. It's so tiny. It's right there. I did not connect when I made my little circle around it, and that's why it didn't show up. You have to connect it somehow. And I still didn't do it. One more time. And it did do it. It's just so tiny that I can't see it. It's an itty bitty little pixel. Cut. There it goes. Okay, now it's gone. Now I am completely clean all the way around, all right? Before you do anything else, you want to save this to your memory. And I'll tell you why in a second. All right, that is now saved. Because we're going to be using parts of this design, we have to decide which one goes first. So if we were doing a quilt block and we were going to do it in the hoop, we'd say which piece of this goes down first, and it is the kitty cat. It's the outline of the cat, and then his face goes on top, and then the boo goes on top of that, or vice versa. But the kitty is the first one to go down, okay? So that means we want to erase the boo and the face and the whiskers and the ears, and we'll just be left with the kitty cat outline. The reason you want to save this is because once you start erasing and doing stuff, and then you want to come back and get the boo, you'll have to scan again. That way you have this saved in your memory and you don't have to go back and scan and do all that stuff over again. All right, so because we just want this little kitty cat ghost outline, we want to get rid of the boo and the face and the ears. So you're going to erase all of that stuff. So it's easy to use this and just draw. Is it going to work? Yep. You can freehand all the way over to here. Make sure it connects. And cut. And get rid of a whole bunch at once. You can also take your eraser and scribble on it and erase it. I'm going to do it this way because it's easy. Cut. Okay, see what I'm getting at? You could go. Normally, I'd have my face right up in there, but then you just see the back of my head. Okay, now, when you get to this point, it might be easier to make it bigger. Like maybe that big. Use the hand. Let's do these whiskers. No, let's do this. Let's do this ear. You can still use your, take it off the hand. I do that a lot. You're on select. Draw around it. See, now it didn't work very good. That's why you can go back. Just like that. Do it again. It's easier if you're closer to it, but no can do. Cut. Okay, so you can do it like that. You can get your eraser. Always test it first. See how big your eraser actually is. Okay. So on this part right here, I'm going to zoom in. Actually, let's zoom in all the way. Where is that? There's the first one I was working on. All right. See that right there? Get your eraser. Now your eraser's on size 20 and it looks like it's going to be that big, is it? Eraser. Nope. See how big it is? That's because you're zoomed all the way in. When you're zoomed in like that, make your eraser smaller. Much better. And I like the square because these are square pixels. So you're going to go right up there and go right next to it. Now, let's find a spot where, we'll go ahead and do this, where when we erase the things that are intersecting it, it doesn't look so hot. Let's find one of those. How about this? Let's erase this and erase that. That actually looks pretty good. We are going to continue. Oh, look at that. Don't leave any pieces. Okay. Let's see here. Let me back out because it's difficult. There's one right there. When I erase that and that, it's going to look weird. And there it is right there. So this is the kitty. And this is part of the word. So if I take this and I erase this, and then I come over here and I erase this, that looks weird, right? Just go ahead and erase that. Then come up to your drawing. If you put it on 1600, that's really good. It'll be easier to draw that way. Choose that. Then draw it back in. That little bit and that little bit aren't really going to make a difference. I am going to get rid of that little blob I just made. And I could do that over here too. You can be too picky or not picky enough. All right. Just for grins, you can now see what we've been erasing. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all of this really quick. Actually, it's not really quick. It's going to take me a little bit. But I'm not going to make you guys watch me do that. So when you see me next, we'll just have a nice little kitty outline. Okay, I have erased and drawn back in. It looks pretty good. So you still want to make sure that you don't have any breaks in your drawing. And although I did go around and look at it in, super zoom in mode, there still could be something. Here's how I like to check and see. This is one solid piece, right? Here are our fill properties. Let's go ahead and fill this. If there's a break in my line anywhere, the whole thing will turn red. It'll fill the entire hoop. So let's check. Bucket, and then touch the kitty. There's no breaks, no leaks, nothing's running out. Looks great. So go back. Now I know that I have a solid line. All right, now this is going to be our placement stitch. This is the very first thing that we would do. We'd hoop our fabric and then we'd stitch out this placement stitch. Then we'd lay our kitty fabric on top and then do another stitch around it. We're not quite there yet, but this is going to be a placement stitch. So normally when you do something in the hoop, each step is a different color. And for this example, we are going to make all of our placement stitches green. So right now, this is just a line. It doesn't have a stitch assigned to it yet. Here's where we're going to do that. These are our line properties. So let's go up here. Now, a placement stitch is usually just one straight stitch. Say it was a square. It's going to stitch a square and that's it. We don't have a choice to just go around once. We can only go around twice. That's not a double stitch. That's I'm going around twice stitch. Okay. That's all we got. So that's what we have to choose. That. And we're going to choose green because we want all of our placement stitches to be green. That's how we know they're a placement stitch. Say okay. Now, it's still not assigned a stitch. We just changed it over here, but we didn't actually say we want this to be that. Take your bucket and touch somewhere on the kitty. There, turned completely green. That is now a placement stitch. And so we don't have to do this again. We're going to save it in our memory right here. Save. Because we're going to use this same one when we put for the next stitch, for the tack down stitch. We're just going to change it. Okay, so we've now saved it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to hit next. This is where you could change the length of the stitches, okay? I'm going to leave them because this is fabric that you're cutting around, and if you make longer stitches and you're cutting next to it, it doesn't hold the fabric down as much, and you could make a mistake. So I kind of like my stitches I like them at 2 millimeters, just the way it is, okay? Now it is going to stitch around twice. You can stop it when it goes around once and advance to the next one, or you can just let it stitch twice, okay? Let's go ahead and hit set. Now, you can't go back after this, which is why I said make sure you save this in the memory in Design Center. We are now going to embroidery edit, okay? Now, if we were going to just go ahead and stitch that and we were done, we'd be done, but we're not. We have a lot of these to make. In regular software, all these pieces are saved, to the side. This machine does not work that way. So you kind of have to do some things to get it to be the way that you want it to be. And this is one of them. Now, if I went back and did another one and layered them and did all that in Design Center, we can do that, but then it's a pain to move them and make sure they're lined up. And this is a much easier way because as long as you don't move anything, they just layer on top of each other and they're all in the correct place, okay? Because we want to embroider this eventually, we need to save it in the embroidery memory. Just like that. Perfect. Okay, now that's saved, delete it. I know, right? What? I did all that work. Go back to Design Center. Go to your memory. Remember, there's the one with all the stuff on it, and there's the kitty we just did. We don't have to erase that again. All we have to do is pull this kitty up. So this kitty is the same kitty we just had, but we're going to change it now. We want this to be a different color. So let's say that I would like all of my tack down stitches, all of the tack down ones, to be red. Okay, same stitch, same everything. We're just going to change the color to red. So go up there. Red, which one's red? I can't really tell. Is that red? It looks red to me. Remember, it's still green. We changed it over here, but we didn't change it over here. Bucket, and actually, I don't want to change that to that either. So let's go back. It needs to be on this. I forgot the default is that. If we had left it like that, it would have made a satin stitch. We are not ready for the satin stitch yet. Okay, so now red, straight stitch, say okay, bucket, touch. All right. Now this one's done. Now you got your second one done. This is your tack down stitch. You'll put your fabric on, you'll do the tack down stitch, and then you'll cut around it with your scissors. Okay. You don't need to save this one in the memory because you have the little green one saved. We don't need that. Okay, we just need one of these. So you don't have to save it. Let's go to next. Here's where you change your stitch length. We're not going to change it. We're just going to leave it. Let's go ahead and hit set. Now we have the second one. Okay. Save it in your memory. Okay, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here in a minute, why this is, it's not as confusing as I'm making it be. Okay, we just saved it. Let's delete it. Because we want to put them in there in the order that they're going to be stitched in. Let's go to our memory. Look at that. There's the first one we did. There's the second one we did. So if we were going to stitch it out, we don't have all the rest of them yet, but I'm going to show you this. You're going to choose that and hit set, add, go back to the memory, choose the second one, set. Look at that. So now what's going to happen is you're going to have a placement stitch and you're going to have a tack down stitch. All right. We need one more, because then after we do the tack down stitch and we cut around the kitty, we want to we want to stitch over the edge right here, probably with a satin stitch all the way around this kitty cat. However, let me get out of this. Just delete it. Okay, delete. Okay. Let's go back into my design center. And remember, we saved that whole kitty. There it is right there. Let's go to, let's pull this up. I don't think, no, let's see, cancel. Nope. So let's go back into my design center. Okay. Now, we want to erase the parts of the kitty that go under the boo. Okay. So let's go back up to the scanner. Now we're going to do an image scan. And we're just going to scan it. Okay. And I'm going to fast forward through that so you don't have to wait. All right, perfect. Okay, so this is just an image, okay? There's no drawing on it. There's no nothing. You can't make this a stitch. You can't apply stitches to this. It's just a drawing. And we want that because we're going to bring the kitty that we did, the outline in, and it's going to lay exactly right over that. Watch this. So let's see, memory. You want this one right here. The first one that we did. Say okay. And look at that. It is right over what we did before. It's the same scan. That's why when you get done scanning the first time, don't take it out of the machine yet, because you're going to need to do it again. Unfortunately, we can't really save them in there and pull it up. I tried that and it didn't do anything. So now let's make it bigger. And let me show you what I'm talking about. That's an O. Come on. All right. Now, this is actually a stitch. This is just what's underneath, okay? We want, where we would be satin stitching all around this kitty. This is his arm. Let me make it a little bit smaller so you can see what we're talking about. It would satin stitch, satin stitch. We don't want it to satin stitch under here or under here, because another piece of fabric goes on top. So now what you're going to do is you're going to erase under here on this line. Okay, so get your eraser. And I always like to test and see how big it is on whatever it is. E. Is my pen off? Yes. I like this pen a lot, but it turns off by itself. All right. And then takes a second. There we go. Okay, that's how big my eraser is. See it? If you want to make it smaller, make it smaller. Now, don't do it right up to the line. Let a teeny bit come over. Okay, I need to make that bigger because I can't see what I'm doing. There. All right. There's our stitching line. Erase it. And I'm going to make it even smaller because it got big because I zoomed in. Oh, there we go. Just erase like up to the line, because otherwise you could end up with a gap. Okay, so there's one. Let's go back. Let's look at it there. I erased that. Let's erase that right there. How about that? And remember, don't go too far. You'll end up with a gap. There we go. Right. I'm going to say right there. And down to right there. Find the next spot where you'd have to erase. Right here under the first part of the B. Just to the line. Don't go any further. But make sure you get all those little stitches out of there. To right there. Okay? Let's go back to here. Got my hand. Oops, I took it off my hand. Now we know that it probably goes to over here. And there's our O. Let's erase where it goes under the O. Ooh, my tummy's growling. And I want my eraser a little bit bigger. Right to there. You just don't need all those stitches under there. To there. There and there. Okay. Look around. That's the only place that it's going to go under fabric. We don't care if it goes under the whiskers because the whiskers are just going to be little stitches anyway. That's okay to stitch over, but you don't want to stitch under. If you had a bunch of satin stitching right there and then you put the fabric B over it, you'll see a bump right there. It's not necessary to do. All right, let's go back to the normal size and let's make the background image invisible. If you touch that, it's gone. Now there's a gap and a gap and a gap there and there. Now we're ready to turn this into the satin stitching that stitches all around the kitty's body. Okay, now keep in mind, this is one piece, here's a piece, here's a piece, and here's a piece, and here's a piece. It isn't one anymore. It's a whole bunch. So you got to make sure that each one of those gets changed. Okay, so let's go up here. It's already a satin stitch up here, but we're going to look at it anyway. I'm going to say that I want to leave it black. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to change it to purple because that way we can see that it changes. If you just leave it whatever color it already is, then you don't know. I guess I could change it to black because I want it to be black. All right. Satin stitch, black, say okay. Bucket, touch, see, black. You have to touch each part or it won't change. All right. Now in this particular screen, the only way you know it's a satin stitch is by that. And if you made it be that. It looks pretty good. Let's go to the next step. Now because we chose a satin stitch, we have some different things that we can do. We didn't have this before in the straight stitch menu, but we have it right here. Okay, so this is the width of the satin stitch that goes all the way around. This is the density of your satin stitch. So if you notice that you're stitching your satin stitch and it's not quite as filled in as you'd like it to be, you can make it more filled in. I think you can only go to 110. Yep. I like to put it on 110 because I don't want to worry about whether there's going to be a little tiny piece missing. Okay. So go ahead and get out of that. And then this is important. All right. Let's talk about that. This is the width of it. Now they call it a zigzag because it is a zigzag, but it ends up being a satin stitch. So I have my units, my machine, set at millimeters right now. If you go into your settings and we go to, I think it's this way, yep, unit, millimeters. If you change that to inches, if you've got it on inches, it's now telling you that this stitch is 0.080 wide. My brain does not compute how wide that is. And if you say, well, okay, then what is that? And what is that in inches? What does that really mean? What does that look like? It's so much easier for this particular part of it to do it in millimeters because this is tiny. It's just an easier way to do it. All right. At the moment, this is set on 3.5 millimeters. I already know that is pretty close to what I would like to have. I'm going to put it on 4, and I'll tell you why. So you've got 4 millimeters. That 4 millimeter wide stitch is centered over the line. That would be a straight stitch. So it's going to be 2 millimeters on this side and 2 millimeters on this side. When you put your placement stitch down, and then you put the white fabric on and you tack it down, and then you cut around it, your satin stitch needs to cover the edge that you cut. Now, I know because I've done this a couple of times, if I put it on 3, I have to cut super close to the edge of that. I don't want to have to be that perfect about it, and sometimes it's hard to cut that close. If you know that you can't cut that close, you want to make your number bigger, okay? 4 works really good for me. I can cut pretty close, but that way I don't have any little edges sticking up. Okay, so that's what I'm going to choose. Say okay. All right. Now, here's something else I want to point out. This means global. See this red box? If I move this, the box moved to choose that. And again, choose that. And again, you can do all of these separately, but you don't have to. If you hit global, that's what that means. It selects everything. It's kind of a select all. All right. Now, you want to make sure that this is on 4. That's what I put it on before. Set okay. And this was at 110%. There. So it did it all for you, all at once. So you didn't have to do each one separately. Okay. Now, you don't need to save this because not here, because you're not going to go back and use this for anything. This is actually the last step of the kitty cat part. So we're going to hit set. Yep. And there it is. Now, memory. Save it in your memory. Delete. Go to your memory. What's the first one we did? This one. Placement stitch, set. Add. Memory. Tack down stitch. Set. Add. Memory. Satin stitch. Set. Look at that. Now we're going to go to embroidery just for fun. We're not ready to embroider, but this is to show you what you got here. So it's going to stitch that one first, then that one, then that one. So now they're all in line. Okay. All right. Well, that's enough for this one. This is part 1. We'll go on and do some more in part 2. And I imagine there might be a 3 or 4. A lot of work.